The Office of the Deputy President says David Mabuza has offered to leave his post, citing the need to align the ANC's leadership with state functions. According to several media reports, this now paves the way for newly elected ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile to take up the residence in the union buildings. Mabuza has opted not to run for re-election, when the ANC held its 55th National Conference last month. These changes have prompted speculation that President Cyril Ramaphosa may also reshuffle his cabinet, with several ministers, in fact, not making it to the newly elected ANC NEC. Let's make sense of all of this for you now and bring in political analyst Dr John Molepo, who joins us via our video link this morning. Doc, it's great to see you. Thanks as always for making time to help us connect the dots, as it were. Few people will be surprised by these media reports because of the ANC's history, some might say, especially when it comes to this conversation around two centers of power.
Well, I think it's inevitable that we are likely to see a reshuffle precisely on the issue of the Secretary General and the Minister of DPSA, which has already been vacated. But if you were to look into the presidency, we are speaking about David Mabuza, who lost the conference, whose political currency in the broader politics of South Africa has lapsed. You'll know that he did not even make a cut to the NEC of the ANC. So it tells you that his political currency has lapsed. And therefore, I think for his resignation, it signals a mutual respect, mutual working with other colleagues for him to be able to leave for the incumbent to occupy the office. But the question also, maybe perhaps as a society, we should be asking ourselves whether do we really need the deputy president position, because in any case, minister can still act as president while the president is not there. And that could be able to save us taxpayers' money, because South Africa is going through some financial difficulties. But that is a topic for another day. But what is currently important is for two centers of power not to be created. And we have seen it that in the ANC, they always try to maintain that mutual, culture or transition, that when a deputy president or president wins the election or get elected as the president, simply means it becomes a president of the country also. I think that is a good working relationship. But looking into deeper on this particular issue, maybe perhaps DD might be also trying to welcome Paul Mashatile to this particular presidency, in ultimately working with his province to come and ensure that Paul Mashatile in the next coming year become the president.
Yeah. I mean, you asked questions about whether or not the country needs a deputy president, and I guess some people might mull over the question as they also think about David Mabuza's legacy. The past 5 years, he's been described as somewhat of an absent deputy president.
Well, obviously, I think maybe he was trying to play politics, not to overshadow or not to be more famous than the president. But I'll tell you, even if you were to ask anyone who was the deputy president of South Africa, some will necessarily not know because of his silent approach on doing things. But I think his term wasn't that much clear, meaning that he was not that visible enough to harness, even to make sure that people really know what he does. So I think from where we are sitting, that's why even some of us were calling that maybe perhaps the position of the president is not really important in this broader politics of South Africa currently. So perhaps, like for an example, like the example that I said, when the president leaves, sometimes approach ministers to act. I think if we move in that fashion, I think maybe perhaps we'll be saving taxpayers' money.
Yeah. You know, part of what comes with this conversation around this time is, the speculation, as I mentioned, around a possible cabinet reshuffle. The president, in some instances, being criticized for being overly consultative, making promises perhaps that it doesn't keep when it comes to trimming down this cabinet finally to ensure that it is much leaner, more effective, with competent, skilled members of the executive. But there are two things worth thinking about, I guess. For one, Ayanda Georgia had resigned for quite some time now, quite a while ago, when she took up a post at the World Bank. Fikile Mbalula, we know, is the Secretary General of the ANC, which is a full-time job at Luthuli House, so that ministry will also be open. Do you reckon these things will push the president far enough to finally meaningfully reconfigure his cabinet?
I think so, and then I think he will appoint capable people, but it's been long that not appointing people in this ministers which have been vacant. Look at the DPSA, which has been dealing with important negotiation and other important things in the society, and there's been a vacant position for deputy for the minister of DPSA. So it tells you that the reshuffling is looming. And we are hoping that the president, when he does that, he will look into the question of skills, competencies, and also people who are able to be able to deliver what is important to the broader society, because actually this is the last term that the president, actually the ANC might be doing for the last time. So it's important for this particular moment or 18 months or this particular months that we have, that the ANC perform to its best so that they can also garner support from the society at large.
It's interesting.
Look, we are facing the question. We're facing question of load shedding and many other important things. So I think the ANC, even his reshuffling, will be able to look into addressing those particular issues that really affects the ordinary lives of South Africans.
It's interesting to hear that you're confident that he will appoint competent people, because part of the expectation is that he'll also reward those who helped him get a second term in office and, by extension, punish those who possibly stood in his way. How does he do both?
Well, I think he must manage the question of balance of the relationship between power, and so he must manage to balance power, because what we are likely to see, he must not be able also to purge, because once he purge others, he might not finish his even a second term if he gets one. So it's always important for him to be able to manage even those who are descending. So it's important that when he do this thing, he must balance all the time. But those who did not support him, obviously, I think the question, if you were to look Lindiwe Sisulu, might necessarily make it a cut again to his administration. And there are people like Nkosana Dlamini Zuma, you wouldn't also want to leave her out because of the experience, capabilities, and so on. But they are also young or young people who are already there who can also take those particular positions. So what is important with this coming reshuffling, I think the president will look into women, will look into the question of young people who also have skill, because I think the ANC in many years has been failing to deal with succession plan of leaders. So I think in this current epoch, I think the ANC, the president will look into young people. I think if we were to check, honestly, in his administration or on this of Ramaphosa, we have seen women ascending to power in various powerful positions, and we've also seen young people also becoming important in the society, getting good positions that previously were not occupied by young people.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to wait and see as the cliche goes. Hopefully this time you'll be able to respond to some of those calls, given what's at stake. Dr. John Molepo, thanks very much indeed for always speaking to us. Dr. Molepo is a political analyst. I appreciate your time.